Hello, friends. Um, I'm trying to get this in a position where I don't look quite like so much shit, but I look like shit. Um, yeah, there's a reason. I haven't been well. If you've been watching my channel or if you know me for a while, you know that I have ulcerative colitis and it's been acting up. And I haven't been swimming in over a week, which of course is really bad for me mentally because I love to swim and I haven't gone because the symptoms of UC, and I'm not going to elaborate, look it up yourself, but the symptoms of UC are such that you don't go to a public pool when you have it. I also haven't been going to the thermal baths, because same reason. So, yeah, and also not going for walks. I went for a little walk the other day. It was completely exhausting because that's how weak I am. One of the symptoms of UC is you lack energy and stamina, and normally I'm pretty low stamina. And I've been trying to work on that, and swimming is part of the thing. Or walking is part of the thing. When I walk consistently, my stamina goes up, which is great. But when you're in the middle of a flare and you're having symptoms, you can't go for a walk. You're too far away from a bathroom, frankly. So yeah, so basically December has been, please excuse the pun, shit. Um, yeah, and it's depressing, obviously. It's depressing because, you know, when you have a lot of things on your mind and most of those things are your health, and then the things that you do to make you feel better, you can't do. Basically, I just sit here all day and I work on the business, and December is always the worst month for the business. So I'm terrified that we're not going to be able to pay the bills. And look, I mean, every single year I've run this business for over 20 years now, and I've run it full time for, quick math, 18 years. So for 18 Decembers, I have worried. And for 18 Decembers, I have never not paid a bill. But, it's a worry. It's always a worry. And, right now I'm waiting for my previous landlord, to return the deposit money, which he will. But, anyone who owes you money is going to drag their feet giving you money. And I need the money to pay bills, and he's not hurrying, which is a concern, and orders are low. And so I'm upset about that. And because I can't go for a swim or go for a walk or go to the baths or do any of the things I normally do, I sit here in front of my computer and push the refresh button and obsess. And I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to read, because at least reading gets my mind off things, but it only gets my mind off things so much. I just got the new Expanse book. This is the cover. Seventh Expanse book. Ninth Expanse book, the final book in the series. And the beautiful thing about reading sci-fi is it is very rarely about modern life. It's very rarely about paying the rent and the electricity bill and all that stuff, which is great. So that, but I'm trying not to finish the whole book in a day, because that's what I did with all the other ones the day they came out. So I'm trying to read it slowly. But yeah, I'm in a really bad place. Mentally, I think I'm a lot more positive than I could be at this point, but I recognize the fact that I'm in a lot of pain. My right shoulder is giving me a lot of pain. My left shoulder also hurts. Both my elbows hurt, but that's all compensation for my right shoulder not working. Yesterday I had a backache because I stretched to put my Expanse books. I put the whole set up on a shelf, I decided to put it on the top shelf because that made so much sense, and I can't rotate the shoulder properly. So what do you do when you can't move your shoulder properly? You stretch the side of your body, and I pulled a muscle in my lower back, and then that hurt because I sit for a living. Um, I'm pretty disgusted with myself. I'm disgusted with myself, and I'm not. But I want to tell you something positive. So I went to the emergency room. That sounds positive, doesn't it? Um, it's funny, just to let you know what life in the Netherlands is like and how different that is from the US. You know, last June, I had this terrible pain and, absolutely blinding pain. And I called my friend, and my friend lives far away. She used to live close by, but now she's moved and lives far away. And I called her, and she was like, you know, if you can't drive to the doctor, call the ambulance. And I thought, call the ambulance? They're going to charge me thousands of dollars of calling the ambulance. And I called the ambulance, and they just came and checked me out, and turned out I had a kidney stone. And they said, oh, well, we can't take you to your doctor, but because we can only take you to the hospital. You don't need to go to the hospital. You're not in that distress. But make an appointment with your doctor and go have a friend take you tomorrow or something. And then they just bogged off and wished me a happy day and left. And I never got a bill for it. And I still don't understand how that can happen. But so last Saturday, my experience was the experience of going to the emergency room. So I woke up on Saturday morning, and I was having terrible, terrible pains. I have UC symptoms. I know what UC symptoms are, but this was more painful than normal. And I asked my husband to call my doctor's office in case he had Saturday hours. And he didn't have Saturday hours, but they have a number that you can call in emergencies. So he called it, and it turns out that's the emergency room switchboard, or the emergency room something, attendant, say. And they said, can you come in today at 10:15? And it was like 9:30. They said, come in today at 10:15, which is unusual that the emergency room says come in at 10:15. But they said, come around to the emergency room and you can park up top. And I was like, park up top. So anyway, you go to the hospital and you go up this ramp. You follow the signs for the emergency room, and you go up this ramp, and there's a parking area that only people who go to the emergency room can use. So there's always spaces. And then there's a garage where the ambulances are. And then there's a set of sliding doors, and you go in the sliding doors, and the first people you meet are a bunch of people behind glass who are the people who do the intake for the emergency room. And you say, I have an appointment. And they say, okay, here's a mask. I was wearing a mask, and they give you a new mask. Here's a new mask. And say, go over there, sit in section 1, and the doctor will see you. And so you walk into this room, and there's section, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's a long room, and they're like little partial walls between them. It's very nicely decorated, but it's like nothing I would expect from an emergency room. Emergency room, you expect a bunch of chairs that are too hard to sit on, and a flood of people, and noise, and most likely a bunch of TVs all on different channels, and chaos, and everything to make you feel worse. And, people in white coats darting back and forth, and then people behind screens and stuff like that. And it wasn't. It was like a waiting room, like just a large waiting room. And there was almost no one there. There was no one in section 1. There was 2 people in section 2, 2 people in section 3. And it was weird. Understand this. The government is instituting corona restrictions because hospitals are overwhelmed with corona patients, and we're worried about the situation progressing such that you won't be able to give places in ICU to people who don't have corona. So that's what we're worried about. That's what we're hearing on the news. And you walk into an emergency room, all I can think is that corona patients aren't going to the emergency room, which may be true. If you test positive, you just get admitted or something. But yeah, there was like no one there. And so I sat down on this bench and pulled out my phone to read my book. And the doctor came out of her office and called my name, and I went in, and it was an office. It wasn't a, curtained off bed in a big room. It was an actual office. I mean, and it was just around the corner from the emergency room. There were no curtained off beds in a big room like you see in American emergency rooms and in A&E in England. It just wasn't like that at all. So you went to an office, and the office there was an examination room. There was a bed and the cabinets with medicine in them and sink area on the one side. And on the other side, there was a desk with a bookcase. And it was the doctor's office, like in my doctor's practice at home. Doctor's office. So I went in there and I told her what was going on with me, and she examined me and she gave me some suggestions. She said, I want you to make an appointment with your normal GP, and I'm going to send him a message to tell him you're going to make an appointment with him and that I talked to you about this. But in the meantime, and then she gave me basically direction to go to the drugstore and get an over-the-counter thing that I didn't know existed. And she said, try this because this might help your symptoms. And it did. And I ended up not making the appointment with my doctor. I will be making an appointment with my doctor next week. But, and that's the other thing. I make an appointment. I call up my doctor, and the person I make the appointment with says, oh, you want to come later today or you want to come tomorrow? It's always the question. Do you want to come tomorrow? Is tomorrow good? There's never a wait. I mean, how many times did I call a doctor in the US and say, oh, I'm really sick. Can I come in? And they say, oh, well, we can see you in 2 or 3 weeks. And you're like, well, in 2 or 3 weeks, I'll either be dead or not sick anymore. So it's weird. It's weird. And, I mean, all the stuff they tell you about, oh, if there's social health care, there'll be all these, there's no lines. I've never been in a line. The only time I was ever in a line was when I went to get my COVID vaccination. And I went at a certain time, and a bunch of other people were at the same time, and we were in a line, but the line moved quickly. It's just there were a lot of people there. Big sports center, so you're in a line. But you're in a line and you're constantly moving. I don't know. I mean, even I went for my flu shot about 2 months ago, I think. And I went for my flu shot. You go to your doctor's office and you walk in. They give you a specific time, like a very specific, like the appointments are 5 minutes apart or something like that. And you go in and you say, this is my name. Here's my letter to get my flu shot. And you give them the letter, and they take the letter and they go down there. And literally there was one person in front of me. And then as I was rolling up my sleeve, they stuck the flu shot in my arm, didn't even give me a Band-Aid, and I walked out the back door. I mean, it's amazing how fast things happen. And so anyway, yeah, I went to this amazing emergency room, and everything was calm. I mean, it just, like, I've been to emergency rooms before with friends or with, minor broken bones or something like that. And everything's chaos. Everything feels like your stress level goes up because everything's crazy. And this was the calmest place. There was just no worry. And everyone, like, Dutch medical professionals just treat you like everything's okay. And it's really nice, So, yeah, my UC isn't great. It's acting up. I'm having symptoms. I haven't seen a gastroenterologist in the 3 years that I've lived here because I didn't have symptoms. And now I'm probably going to have to make an appointment with a gastroenterologist, which doesn't please me. I don't want to be put on steroids, which is usually the next step. If my normal medicine isn't working, they're going to put me on steroids for a month to get the inflammation down. And I'm not happy about that, but it'll work, it'll work. And because nothing new is happening to me, it's just what's happening to me now is what happened to me in St. Croix when I went off my medicine for a couple of years. So the difference is that I'm on my medicine now and it's still happening. But as I mentioned, I've been under an immense amount of stress since October. And, back in 2005, when I was first diagnosed with UC, guess what? I was under the exact same kind of stress and my symptoms showed up. So it's a little worrying that my symptoms aren't responding to the meds anymore. But the answer, possibly the answer is just take more meds. And the medicine that I take every day is basically a version of aspirin with a coating on it so that it doesn't dissolve in your stomach. It dissolves in your large intestine where it's needed. And there's no side effect. So, I take 3 a day now. If they say I have to take 6 a day, oh no. It's not a big deal. I've never had any side effect from it. And I don't think there is a side effect from this medicine. So if they say, oh, just double the dose, yeah, okay, great. I'll double the dose and that'll be fine. Like I said, I don't want them to put me on a steroid because it just makes you feel itchy and funny. But if I have to be put on a steroid, it'd probably be, a month and then everything will be fine. But the thing I have to remind myself is that when you have intestinal issues, nothing that fixes it overnight. Anything that works will take a month to work. That's just the way it is because it's a long process. It's not like putting a Band-Aid on your chin, It takes a while to get there, I suppose. It takes a while for everything to normalize. And I also know that once January starts, like every January since I've been running this business, January the orders will come back, and January, my rent deposit refund will happen this month. He told me you'll get it back in December. He didn't tell me when in December. And then he told me some horseshit about, oh, usually it doesn't happen until 3 months later, which is absolute horseshit because I talked to a professional, a real estate professional, who said 6 weeks at the outside, and 6 weeks is only if you have an argument about the deposit amount and you have to negotiate. So, usually you get the deposit within a couple days. So it's horseshit. And for a person whose house I loved and who I thought was a nice guy, rich people are assholes. What could my measly deposit possibly mean to someone who drives around the top of the line BMW and buys houses to rent to people like he's buying candy at a store? Dickhead. Anyway, I rent from nice people now. Yeah, I didn't want to go there. Anyway, it's shit and everything's shit and I'm upset. But as you can see, the sun is coming up. Not that there's sun. It's also been really, really gloomy December. I know I live in the Netherlands and it's famous for not being sunny, but that's not the reality. The reality for the last 3 years is even on a day when it's supposed to be cloudy all day, usually the clouds break and the sun breaks through because we have a maritime climate. The clouds don't stay. It just, the wind off of the sea, not that I'm anywhere near the sea, but it's very flat. The wind off of the sea constantly pushes the clouds, so the weather constantly changes. So the idea of having days of just bleak grayness is not usual here. But for the past 2 or 3 weeks, that's what it's been like. And that's very strange. That's what I hated about Pennsylvania. You could have, 6 weeks, 2 months of just gray skies and nothing ever happens. I actually like the rain because it's not just plain gray skies. But this month, or this past month, I should say, it's been really bleak. And that's not normal. It's normal for the clouds to roll in and the clouds to roll out, and at least there be a break. Um, if the day starts out cloudy, then it'll be sunny around sunset, and at least a little. At least you'll see blue sky and sunshine somewhere, and it hasn't been. So that's wearing on me. And um, I mean, I could complain about, oh, we're not allowed to go to a restaurant after 5 o'clock or a shop after 5 o'clock, or we have to wear masks in shops, or we can only have four of our friends over at a time. And I don't care because I'm sick. I'm not going anywhere. My friends that I would go see are all, they have four kids and caught up in Christmas stuff, and I'm not going to see them anyway. And, I can go swim if my symptoms stop. So I'm hoping this coming week that my symptoms will stop. I'm hoping that Saturday I can make an appointment and go to the thermal baths and chill out. Um, but it's not relaxing if you're worried about your symptoms happening while you're at the thermal baths. That would be horrific. Um, so yeah, so this has been longer than I wanted to talk. I'm sorry. I don't mean to bore you guys, but I'm struggling. I'm struggling really badly. But I talked to my psychologist tomorrow, and I didn't tell you when I saw her before. She really doesn't speak English, so I had to speak Dutch, which my Dutch is not great. And I always say I speak Pigeon Dutch. I speak like kitty Dutch, which embarrasses me. And but if I know I'm going to talk to somebody and I know what I'm going to talk to them about, I can look up words and practice, which I'm going to do before tomorrow. But yeah, so I talked to her for an hour in Dutch, and she said to me at the end, she said, "You really shouldn't be embarrassed. Your Dutch isn't great, but I understood everything you said. You communicate, and that's fine. I understand you, and we could do this." So it's weird going to see a therapist that, you know, um, I'm having trouble communicating with, but I'm managing. I don't think I'm managing to tell her the whole story, but she has a plan. She's making a plan for me that involves, from what I understand, spending more time in nature. This is the thing. You need to spend more time in nature, um, and that will help. And I know it will, because it's beautiful here. I mean, despite it being flat, it's gorgeous. I mean, we have trees. The amount of trees we have. I mean, okay, we bury our power lines, which every time I see, there's a recent thing in England with they had a big storm and power lines blew over and everybody's electricity went off. We don't have power lines. We don't have power lines. They're underground. And so you can have trees. And we have trees right next to the road. Like almost every road, minor roads are all lined with trees. One of the reasons for that is because every road is also lined with a drainage ditch, because, we're the Low Countries and it floods. But it doesn't flood because we have drainage ditches, and the Dutch are masters of water management. So, so it means we have lots of lovely trees. And like there were trees just next to our house that have to be 100-year-old oaks. I mean, they're huge and they're beautiful, and it's very beautiful here. So I don't have to walk far to see beautiful things. So I'm going to start doing that, and then I'll see what my psychologist has to say tomorrow. And then I have an online training for the new software that I'm excited about, and that'll be good. So I will post a video after that and see what we have to say. See ya.